Welcome to InfoHub Recap. We look back at the past week's main issues. In our headlines, Natural Resources Fund to be established for oil and gas revenues. Public Infrastructure Ministry sets record straight on the new Demerara River Bridge. Condolences sent to Italy following its bridge collapse disaster. And we have this week's Cabinet Roundup. These stories and much more in this week's InfoHub Recap. First, government will be establishing a natural resource fund to invest the revenues to be obtained from oil and gas. In this report, Stacey Carmichael outlines the importance of the fund and its operation as outlined in a green paper laid in the National Assembly on August 8.
The Green Paper captures key issues for consideration and includes mechanisms to ensure sustainable use of petroleum resources. Government believes the establishment of a single fund, the Natural Resource Fund or NRF, will be the most effective, efficient and transparent mechanism for achieving multiple objectives of intergenerational savings, stabilization and investing in development priorities. Minister of Finance Winston Jordan.
The fiscal rule options that have been proposed within the Green Paper are designed to achieve these objectives. Mr. Speaker, the first of these listed objectives, stabilization, is particularly important for resource-rich countries that are dependent on natural resources for two simple reasons. One, commodity prices are volatile, and two, production levels can be difficult to predict. These two factors can result in unstable revenue and, by extension, government spending, which will negatively impact the stability and scale of social programs and interventions.
Historically, in recognizing the need to both save and spend incoming oil revenues while ensuring future generations benefit, the establishment of a Sovereign Wealth Fund or SWF was proposed. However, the government, after careful examination of several factors, including the additional administrative costs of establishing two funds and examples of countries that established multiple sovereign wealth funds but failed to manage their revenues effectively, concluded that a single NRF will be most effective. According to the Green Paper, a single fund can achieve multiple objectives with a robust fiscal rule. Establishing a sovereign wealth fund is relatively complex and there can be substantial administrative costs. Economic modeling also demonstrates that with Guyana's proposed fiscal rule, known as the Economically and Fiscally Sustainable Amount Rule, a single fund will lead to economic stabilization and substantial long-term savings. This would avoid increased administrative costs that establishing multiple funds would entail. The government cited case studies of Botswana, Norway and Nigeria which show having multiple funds are no guarantee of achieving savings and stabilization objectives. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
Minister of Social Cohesion Dr. George Norton reaffirmed the government's commitment to youth empowerment. He was speaking at the National Youth Awards ceremony where they were honored for their positive contributions and achievements. Here's that report.
Minister Norton described the awardees as confident, courageous, positive and hungry for change, hence his ministry's decision to honor them for their positive contributions.
The persons and groups who are being honored tonight have been tackling some of the most crucial issues plaguing the world. And these range from education and poverty to suicide and mental health. I hereby reform my commitment to youth empowerment and to renew my call for your support as key stakeholders in national development.
The minister noted that through the ministry's initiatives this year not only recognize the youth's importance, but they also provide outcomes to the issues they may face. Permanent Secretary Melissa Tucker told the awardees that they are proof of the capacities and contributions made to benefit the younger generation by government.
Young people have proven capabilities and are contributing to national life. Whether they work in private enterprise, public sector, or with voluntary organizations, they should be seen not only as beneficiaries or as passive recipients of support. Rather, they should be recognized in their own rights as champions, custodians, and innovators in development.
This year's award ceremony, the fourth annual one, was hosted under the theme in recognition of outstanding individuals, groups and organizations for their work in youth development. Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
Minister of Citizenship Winston Felix on August 10 visited the indigenous community of Cans Hill in the Barima-Waini region to distribute some much-needed supplies to Venezuelan migrants. We bring you that report now.
This is the minister's second visit to the area. 2 weeks ago, the Ministry of Citizenship, in collaboration with the Civil Defense Commission, International Organization for Migration and UNICEF, distributed supplies to the migrants. The 3-day exercise saw migrant families in Cans Hill, Camwater, Powaikuru, Imbotero, and Smith Creek receiving hampers which included packaged and canned goods. During the visit, the Minister of Citizenship identified a prospective piece of land on which government is considering establishing a homestead for migrants in Region 1. Government's intention to create a humanitarian center in the region was highlighted in the minister's first visit to the area.
We would ensure that they are treated humanely by ensuring that they are placed under conditions where they can live and enjoy a reasonable state of comfort. We would be seeking to identify areas in which government can control the inflow of Venezuelans, and we can settle them in a given area.
A multi-agency committee, which included the Civil Defense Commission, the Guyana Police Force, the Ministries of Citizenship, Indigenous Peoples Affairs, Public Health, Communities and Social Protection, was established to address the influx of Venezuelans in Guyana's border regions. The body is currently assessing the situation in Regions 7 and 9. The government's efforts are in keeping with the United Nations High Commission's recommended guidelines and principles on human rights at international borders. For InfoHub, Anna Arakan.
The Ministry of Public Infrastructure notes various media reports which seek to question the process for the feasibility study for a new Demerara River Bridge. The ministry rejects and strongly condemns the misinformation campaign by the opposition leader and what amounts to unwarranted attacks by him on the integrity of dedicated public servants. MPI reiterates that lengthy procurement procedures were faithfully followed, which did not yield suitable results. However, thereafter received a proposal which satisfied the government's requirement for this project of national importance, and given the relevant time constraints, it was felt that it was in Guyana's interest to take advantage of the proposal. It is for this and other stated reasons that Cabinet's approval was sought. There is and has been an urgent need for a new bridge across the Demerara River, and government is cognizant of this and has taken every decision within the law to ensure that the realization of a new bridge is not unduly delayed. The people of Guyana deserve nothing less. Despite the unfortunate and misguided campaign by the opposition leader, this government remains committed to serving and improving the lives of the Guyanese people with utmost transparency and the highest level of accountability. The full release can be read on our website at www.dpi.gov.gy. The American Chamber of Commerce in Guyana is expected to promote America-Guyana trade. Tiffany Rodius attended the AmCham formal launch on Monday evening and brings us the details.
AmCham Guyana was launched Monday evening at the Marriott Hotel. The association's president, Zulfikar Ali, committed to fostering relations between the private sector and the government.
We are aware that Guyana means business, and with AmCham Guyana we can assure you it will not be business as usual. We want to bring new ideas, new technology, and new skills to the market and be the leader in private sector change.
Acting Prime Minister and Minister of Foreign Affairs Carl Greenidge encouraged the association to pay special attention to trading beyond primary resources, especially services.
We are one of those states where our export of services is negligible, and that is something that is important, and I make this point in a forum like this because it is an indication to you one of our aspirations as a government and our hope that you as businessmen, whether you are Guyanese-based business or US-based business, to understand that our prosperity also depends upon the diversification of the Guyana economy.
Minister of Business Dominic Gaskin noted AmCham Guyana's introduction could increase business between the two countries. He gave assurances that the government is working to eliminate the bureaucracy to doing business locally.
And our government is taking action to automate many of the inefficient business processes that are currently causing grief and encouraging corrupt practices in Guyana. It is a slow process, but that process has started.
AmCham Guyana is a voluntary association of U.S. enterprises and individuals doing business in a country, as well as firms and business executives of that country who operate in the U.S. U.S. Ambassador to Guyana Perry Holloway said it was the perfect time to launch AmCham.
AmCham Guyana will promote and create U.S.-Guyana trade and business opportunities and partnerships. It will also share in the exchange of best practices for institutions and systems building. Both American and Guyanese companies will benefit, as will the people of Guyana and the United States.
There are 17 local and U.S. companies that are on the board of directors of AmCham Guyana. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
On Tuesday, government announced that Madhya in Region 8 was designated a township following a series of consultation. Details from Alexis Rodney.
Madhya is now cleared to participate in the upcoming November 12 local government elections. The new town was among a list of communities identified by President David Granger in 2015 to be commissioned as towns. The other three, Bartica, Lethem and Maburuma, are already up and running. However, Madhya was having some delays due to issues with internal boundaries. On Monday, a Ministry of Communities release said that government named the town following the end of a series of consultations. The release said, quote, "The ministry shares the excitement and is encouraged by the transformation that has taken place in the three recently established townships as a result of local leaders seizing this opportunity of this empowerment exercise. These new urban centers are important allies in assisting to close the gap that exists between the hinterland and coastal regions," unquote. The ministry said that the foundation for the new township's transformation began with the upgrading of 80% of the internal roads to concrete and will last for decades. Plans have been advanced for the construction of a government compound that will house a number of government agencies such as the Guyana Revenue Authority, Guyana Lands and Survey Commission, the Guyana Water Incorporated and other agencies. Minister of Communities Ronald Bulkan told InfoHub recently that there is so much to be had from the townships and lauded the development in the newly designated towns.
I'm sure that DPI has visited these townships and have been able to see firsthand of the dramatic transformation, the revitalization that have taken place in those townships. And I think it goes without saying that we feel vindicated the President's vision in creating these new towns, that it was a wise decision and it was the right thing to do.
Reporting for InfoHub, Alexis Rodney.
President David Granger, on behalf of the government and the people of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, offered condolences to the government and people of Italy and expressed sympathy to the families of those who lost their lives and those who were injured in the collapse of the Morandi Bridge in the city of Genoa. President Granger said he stands with Italian Prime Minister Giuseppe Conte as his government works to restore normalcy after this tragic incident. On Wednesday, we learned that the well at 6th Street Diamond East Bank Demerara, which erupted in June, has again become active. The situation is being closely monitored by the Civil Defense Commission.
CDC Acting Director General Lieutenant Colonel Kester Craig said the re-eruption of the well at Diamond East Bank Demerara occurred around 1:30 a.m. A combination of water, mud, gas, and small boulders spewed about 50 feet in the air of the capped pipe landing on nearby houses. 2 weeks ago, engineers from the Guyana Geology and Mines Commission completed initial capping.
The process entails what's known as reverse welling. As part of it, it includes utilizing two sets of pipes going down over 25 feet to trap the gas so it will come to the surface. And it involves using cement to seal around the pipes rather, and the areas that are affected. And the entire area. So that was completed about 2 weeks ago, and has been given 21 days to cure.
From this morning's assessment, it was determined that an apparatus would have to be set up to capture the combination of gas, mud and water and then separate the gas.
I've asked him to give me a recommendation of exactly what it is and the likely cost, because what's indicated that what's happening there is going to be happening continuously until something is done. The Environmental Protection Agency, MASSE and GWI, they conduct tests of the environment to see if there is a high percentage of methane gas in the air, and what the results indicates is that it's safe. The amount of gas in the atmosphere is safe and cannot affect the neighbors around. Apart from that, about a week ago, a sample of the gas was sent overseas for testing to see the quality of it and what can be done in terms of utilization of the gas.
In addition, Lieutenant Colonel Craig said several recommendations were received, including the placement of a gas generator to provide electricity to the community or having a private investor collect the gas for commercial distribution. Following an assessment, a report will be submitted to Minister of State Joseph Harmon for an executive decision to be made. Citizens are reminded to refrain from drilling wells without permission from the requisite agencies to avoid a similar situation which has resulted in significant losses. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
2 major projects targeting the reduction of mercury usage will soon be introduced as part of a national action plan on the phasing out of mercury in the mining sector.
On Monday, the Ministry of Natural Resources met with regulatory agencies, miners' associations and international partners to discuss the advancement of the Minamata Convention on Mercury. The meeting sought to explore the creation of a working group to advance the National Action Plan's work and address any shortcomings in the document. Minister of Natural Resources, Raphael Trotman.
The important thing was to start the process of speaking with each other. In the meantime, we will go through this plan and see what we can do to strengthen it, as well as to see what our individual responsibilities are, so that when we meet again on the next occasion, we can both say what it is we can do, what we will be doing, and also what we believe could be done, which is not mentioned here.
The ministry partnered with the World Wildlife Fund for Nature WWF and the GGMC to draft a national action plan. This will see a phased reduction of mercury usage in the mining sector to complete elimination by 2027 through the implementation of a phased reduction strategy. Implementing the national action plan will be done through various projects, head of MNR's policy unit Vital Rajkumar noted.
This is one of them, a supply chain approach to eliminating mercury in Guyana's mining sector, the El Dorado Gold Project this is referred to. The developing partner we're working with is Conservation International, and this is being funded by the Global Environmental Facility. It's pegged at a budget of $5.8 million US, and the objective, as it states, is really to assist us in converting to mercury-free mining by 2025. One of the added benefits of this project, I would say, is that it looks at the entire supply chain, from the prospectors to the miners to the producers. So it's a good project that we're working. We really need to get the private sector on board.
Other projects include the WWF working with the GGMC to provide demonstrations of mercury-free extraction models and sharing of data on a regional level. Guyana signed on to the United Nations Minamata Convention on Mercury in 2013 and ratified the convention in 2014. The National Action Plan captures a number of objectives and strategies as outlined in the Minamata Convention. These include mercury use reduction, increasing the viability of small and medium-scale mining, management of mercury waste, environmental assessment, contaminated sites, public health aspects, and public information awareness and education. For InfoHub, Tiffany Rogers.
The government's focus on security continues to be highlighted by the allocation of $30.7 billion in Budget 2018. This was in contrast to the $2.4 billion allocated in 2017. Paul McAdam has more.
From the 2018 allocation, $1.5 billion was assigned to the expansion and rehabilitation of the prison system, with $1.8 billion for operational costs. Thanks to support from the Chinese government and other international partners, 114 police stations benefited from additional vehicles and equipment. Several stations at Cove John, Lethem, Springlands and Central New Amsterdam are also slated for rehabilitation, and a new facility will be constructed at Parkway Harmony on the west bank of the Marara. An allocation of $350 million for critical gear, including surveillance equipment, body scanners, armor and more was also made. During a recent National Assembly sitting, Minister of Public Security Kamrat Ramjatan highlighted that these are just a few of the interventions which have led to an overall crime reduction and better apprehension rates.
All the robbery, violence and robbery with firearms used, 2013, by the way, the highest 2014, 823. In 2016, 774, 2017, 673. And we are catching more of these criminals.
The expansion of the community policing groups into more areas, more patrols, and the civilianizing of police groups with broader outreaches, collaboration with religious leaders, and the formation of youth groups are also helping. At the half-year mark, $14 billion has already been spent, almost half of the budgeted amount, according to Minister Ramjatan. Initiatives such as the Citizen Security Project, the Justice Education Program, and the Strategic Management Unit are boosting the force's capability as well as increased training opportunities for ranks.
They are doing robust investigations into every crime. They are using information and intelligence to conduct covert and overt operations. They are doing sting operations. They're doing snap and deliberate roadblocks upon information. And that is why when you see the snap roadblocks, well, some of you feel that it is for other purposes. Random stops and search, raids, big results.
Public and national security remains a prime focus for the government, and the prudent spending of funds allocated will ensure that all citizens, regardless of race, color, creed, or political affiliation, can begin to enjoy the good life. Paul McAdam for InfoHub.
After 10 weeks of technical training in the Essequibo Islands on adolescent health and well-being, education, and environmental programs, 33 new Peace Corps volunteers were sworn in Wednesday by U.S. Ambassador to Guyana, His Excellency Perry Holloway, at his residence.
At the 31st swearing-in ceremony, Minister of Public Affairs Dawn Hastings Williams commended the new volunteers on the successful completion of their training. She explained the new batch will serve in Regions 1, 2, 7, and 9 to continue promoting growth and development in the best interests of the public.
The government recognized the value of volunteerism. The volunteers of the Peace Corps are shining examples for our nation and especially our youth. During your service, your volunteers will be working with teachers and students and in our different communities to teach science effectively, stimulate the love of nature, and empower our youth to be leaders in environmental protection.
Minister of Health, Vola Lawrence, said she's always excited when there is a new batch of Peace Corps volunteers. She promised the government's continued support.
But I am deeply convinced that over an extended period of time, your intervention with the schools, coupled with your interaction with parents and the healthcare workers, will certainly impact significantly and influence positively the choices our youths make.
Peace Corps Acting Country Director Wendy Hirschberger charged the volunteers to remember their oath to provide quality service to the Guyanese public, despite the uncertain situations they may encounter along the way. The new batch of volunteers will provide charitable services for the next 24 months. They will live with residents in the regions that they will serve. Also attending the ceremony was First Lady of Guyana, Sandra Granger, Chief Education Officer of Education Marcel Hudson, and other members of the Diplomatic Corps. Crystal Stahl for InfoHub.
President David Granger on Wednesday met with Baroness Valerie Amos, who is currently the director of the SOAS University in London, former leader of the House of Lords and representative to the United Nations, and Lord Ali Wahid Ali, a member of the House of Lords and entrepreneur at State House. Here are the details.
The officials discussed, among other issues, Guyana's green development pathway investment opportunities in sugar, forestry, petroleum, and green energy sectors. At the meeting's conclusion, it was agreed that Minister of Business Dominic Gaskin will travel to the United Kingdom to meet with potential investors and to expand on Guyana's potential as an investment destination. The meeting was also attended by Minister of State Joseph Harmon and Minister within the Ministry of the Presidency with responsibility for public affairs, Dawn Hastings Williams. Reporting for InfoHub, Alexis Rodney.
On Thursday, Minister of State Joseph Harmon hosted a weekly post-cabinet briefing. We learned that the Commission of Inquiry will be held into hinterland policing and security, American Airlines to start Miami to Georgetown flights, and the government is pleased with the mid-year economic report. More in this week's post-cabinet roundup.
The government is pleased with a mid-year report presented by Minister of Finance Winston Jordan on August 8, which shows a growth in real gross domestic product by 4.5%. Minister of State Joseph Harmon today said this is as it acknowledges several sectors that need additional attention. The half-year growth was attributed to the expansion of economic activity in the agriculture, service, mining and construction sectors. A 1.32% inflation rate was also recorded, a figure slightly below the amount recorded in 2017, mainly on account of lower food prices. The Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate and Caribbean Advanced Proficiency Examinations results are to be released tomorrow. 2 loan agreements have been signed between the Government of Guyana and the International Development Association, IDA.
These include a financing credit arrangement for SDR special drawing rights of $24,400,000 that will provide financing in support of the first programmatic financial and fiscal stability development policy program, and an advance agreement for US $1.6 million that will provide financial support for the proposed Guyana oil and gas capacity building project.
American Airlines will begin flights from the Miami to Georgetown route from November 15, 4 times weekly.
The airline will use an Airbus A319 aircraft with 8 first class and 120 economy class seating capacity. The Honourable Minister of Public Infrastructure informed the Cabinet that the scope of the airline's application was covered under the Air Transport Agreement between the Government of Guyana and the United States of America, and the Civil Aviation Authority had reviewed the airline's business proposal in the area of law, organization, finance and market analysis, and found its submission to be satisfactory.
Minister Harmon also announced that the Ministry of Natural Resources will conduct a commission of inquiry into alleged abuses carried out by law enforcement officials in hinterland mining communities.
But let me say also that the question of security in the hinterland is one which we pay very careful attention to. As you'd recall, a few months ago, we'd organized a small restructuring of the police force to ensure that you had a greater amount of command responsibility for the hinterland areas. There's a large border between Guyana and Brazil, Guyana and Venezuela. And so the effectiveness of our police force and the army to police and provide security for this area is something which is a bit of a challenge. Over the last 2 years, we've established a corps of wardens that's under the Ministry of Natural Resources, and so that is an additional element in the security which we provide for these hinterland areas. We've also just recently acquired fixed-wing aircraft which will assist in the surveillance activities over these hinterland areas.
And finally, the government will continue its engagement with the Guyana Teachers Union, GTU, as it relates to salaries and conditions of service for teachers. Minister Harmon said government is hopeful that common ground will be met and assures that the best interest of the teachers is being taken into consideration. For InfoHub, Stacey Carmichael.
The 4th Annual Youth Parliament continued August 17 with the University of Guyana students engaging in heated debates on motions presented by both sides of the House. Seneca Thorne has the details.
According to Minister Greenwich, having the youth involved in the decision-making process is important to safeguarding and strengthening democracy.
There are roughly 1.2 billion people aged between 15 and 24 on this planet. And however you look at it, that's a significant proportion of our population. And it means then that balance, justice, or simply sensible politics requires that these people, these persons, be given an opportunity to participate in the process of decision-making, because much of that, many of those decisions will affect their lives.
The minister said it should therefore be in the interest of those concerned with governance to ensure that youths are properly represented in the places where the highest policy-making decisions are made.
We shouldn't restrict ourselves or be alarmed, as sometimes happens. You hear this in the discussions about the readiness or fitness of young people to lead. What we need to do is to ensure that the young people and to encourage them to see politics, the arena of decision-making, as an arena open to them, as an opportunity for them to contribute to improving the quality of their own life and the society around them.
Speaker of the National Assembly, Dr. Barton Scotland, said participants made the government felt richly rewarded regarding the manner in which they conducted themselves during the Youth Parliament, particularly during the debates.
The conduct during the debate also deserve kudos. But the students, they demonstrated an ability, the secondary school students demonstrated an ability to stick to their particular argument, to disagree, and at all times to be mindful of the directions of the speaker.
The 4th Annual Youth Parliament was held August 10th to 18th. 72 students from secondary schools across the 10 administrative regions and the University of Guyana participated. Over the course of the sittings, the youth parliamentarians brought motions on issues of climate change, enhancement to the education system, and the media. For InfoHub, Anara Khan.
With 12,269 candidates sitting this year's Caribbean Secondary Education Certificate, the Ministry of Education on Friday reported an overall 69.1% pass rate at the general and technical proficiencies for grade 1 to 3, a 63.68% improvement from 2017. Details from Alexis Rodney.
12,269 candidates were registered for the 2018 CSEC, compared to 12,684 that were registered for 2017. The subject entries for 2018 were 69,194. An analysis of the 2018 results revealed that the overall pass rate at the general and technical proficiencies for grades 1 to 3 was 69.1%. The overall pass rate has improved from 2017, where a pass rate of 63.68% was attained. Today at the NSED, Minister of Education Nicolette Henry said the improvements are a result of the combined efforts of all.
Please know that these tangible results is a demonstration of the hard work and the commitment of all of the persons that are working to support education, not only our administrators and education, but certainly our support partners.
According to Minister Henry, improved performance was evident in 16 subjects, constant in 7, but declined in 12. Outstanding performances were noted in 7 subjects, where 90% and over gained grade 1s to 3. Some subjects with outstanding performances were agriculture science, information technology, religious education, physical education and sports, and industrial technology. Chief Education Officer Marcel Hudson said this year's result shows that the sector is on a developmental trajectory.
This movement, it's not exactly where we want to be, but we are moving anyhow, and I think that is what is critical, that is what is significant in the education sector. And I would want to attribute the movement to some behavior patterns that we have seen in the education sector. I think the movement is inextricably bound to those patterns, and one is purpose. I think more and more we are beginning to recognize what we ought to do or we ought to function, and I think that is taking traction.
This year saw a total of 133 candidates attaining grades 1 passes in 8 subjects or more. Of these, 39 candidates secured 12 grade 1s or more. Topping that list is Queen's College Christian Pyle with 19 grade 1s, followed by Shakira Bola of the Anna Regina Multilateral School with 18 grade 1s and 2 2s. Reporting for InfoHub, Alexis Rodney.
You have been watching InfoHub Recap, where we share the past week's top stories. Goodbye.